Powered by the Montana Television Network. This is the 5:30 News on Q2, Montana's news leader.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Jeanelle Slade. Well, a surge today in confirmed coronavirus cases across our state. Governor Steve Bullock concerned about more community-acquired cases, supports counties enacting more restrictions, but says statewide he hopes to not go back to phase 1. Now, the governor says the virus is still very much here. Now, that's apparent as health authorities announce more than 26 new confirmed COVID-19 cases today. 4 of those out of Bighorn County late this afternoon, all for children under the age of 10. 6 of the cases are out of Custer County, which now has a total of 19 active cases. That's the highest in the state. Bighorn County follows closely behind with 16. Yellowstone County has 6. In a late afternoon press conference, Governor Bullock talked about more testing and resources now available. He also addressed the growing number of cases across the state, more than 69 over the last 7 days. Now, the governor called the increase concerning and says there is some evidence of community transmission. He also says it's important to put the rise in numbers in context. More testing and contact tracing is being done, and Montana still has the lowest number of cases in the nation.
Look, I don't like seeing positive cases. Some of the best days were when we were at 0. Certainly knew as we loosened up some of the restrictions when we went to phase 2 that we would see additional cases. But I think it's just important for all Montanans to continue to take this seriously. There aren't any steps right now to roll back at the statewide level.
The governor also announced $125 million is being made available through the Montana Loan Deferment Program to help out medium-sized businesses. Applications are available Monday and can be made through existing lenders for the program, which will cover interest payments for 6 to 12 months. Well, the governor also mentioned community testing across the state this weekend. In Custer County, where the 6 new cases were announced today, the Custer County Miles City Unified Health Command will hold a free COVID-19 drive-through test at the Eastern Montana Fairgrounds Agri-Sports Complex. Now, that will be on Friday from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. and Saturday from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. Here in Billings, there will be free testing at Metro Park from 9 until noon on Saturday or until all 2,000 tests are gone. Well, as cases rise across the state, a reminder for everyone to take the necessary steps to protect our friends and family who are most at risk. And that includes wearing a mask when social distancing is not possible.
Let's be serious about how we conduct our own personal behaviors and what we do to protect our family members, because it's the most vulnerable that we have the greatest concern about. And so it's our grandparents, it's our parents, it's our children. Those are the ones that when we put on this mask, you know, if we all had a mask that said, I'm doing this for grandma, maybe that would help incentivize behavior, but that's who we're doing it for. We're doing it for our most vulnerable.
Now, during his briefing today, Governor Bullock said he'd like to see mask wearing become the norm in Montana and said wearing a mask should not be viewed as a political or ideological thing. And coming up tonight at 10 o'clock, we'll hear from a local physician about a treatment helping to save coronavirus patients. Well, on to the weather seat now with Chief Forecaster Bob McGuire. Bob, a little bit of, a lot of rain out there.
Into everyone's life, a little rain will fall.
Yes.
We've got a whole bunch of it for a whole bunch of people. Let me show you. These are some of the numbers. These are just since midnight. Now, before midnight, we had 9/100 of an inch. You can add to that, but this is what we had since midnight here in Billings. 64/100 of an inch so far. 17/100 over Livingston. Bozeman about almost half an inch. Butte 3/4 of an inch of rainfall so far, and it's still coming down. We're still looking at this stuff raining in our area. Plus, up in the Beartooth Mountains, we still have a winter weather advisory till 6 a.m. tomorrow morning for maybe another 4 more inches of snow up there. Let's take a look at it on the Doppler radar. You can see in the Beartooth, it's still snowing there now. And look at that big band of rain just south and south central Montana. We still have not 1 but 2 more little waves of rain coming in from the north. That'll be moving in later tonight and again tomorrow. So we're not through with this yet. Computer models are suggesting maybe another 1/4 of an inch of rain. We'll see. We'll have details coming up in a few more minutes.
All right, thanks so much, Bob. Well, celebration and surprise, those are the emotions today as the U.S. Senate passes the Great American Outdoors Act. As MTN's Dennis Bragg reports, it's a sweeping piece of legislation.
Montana's senators had been expressing confidence the Great American Outdoors Act would finally succeed where other efforts had failed, permanently allocating dollars for the LWCF, the primary tool for conservation and public lands access. And when the votes were counted early Wednesday, the idea passed with a huge majority across party lines.
LWCF, as we think about it for Montana and for the nation, is good for public access, it's good for jobs, it's good for wildlife habitat, it's good for land management. And the best part about it, it costs the taxpayer nothing. When you think about Montana and our fishing accesses, 70% of the fishing access sites across Montana have been funded by LWCF.
This victory wasn't easy, and it certainly didn't happen overnight. We worked long and hard across the aisle with local conservation groups and public lands advocates around the country to build broad support where it never existed before.
In fact, Tester believes it was that broad support, including a positive conversation between Daines and President Trump, which finally convinced Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell to clear the way for the legislation.
Congress had already decided to keep the Land and Water Conservation Fund a couple of years ago, but there was no money in the checking account. Passage of the Great Outdoors Act takes care of that.
While reaction is positive from many groups, a few critics have expressed concerns the act just means more federal land ownership in Montana. Dane says it's about removing barriers to public lands, while Tester notes LWCF doesn't target tillable lands.
We have about 1.5 million acres of federal lands in Montana that are inaccessible to the public. And so this is a very important conservation tool that allows us to get access to federal lands that otherwise aren't accessible.
Where this bill has been particularly useful is willing buyer, willing sellers. In a situation where you have a checkerboard pattern within our national forest, which is very, very, very common, and being able to block those acreages. By the way, using private sector, primarily nonprofits, to do that.
In Missoula, Dennis Bragg, MTN News.
Well, the Great American Outdoors Act also includes $12 billion to help the national parks and other agencies repair aging infrastructure, and now goes to the House for approval. Well, the family of a man killed on the Crow Reservation has decided to settle its decade-long lawsuit accusing the FBI of unequal law enforcement for Native Americans. Stephen Bear Crane was shot and killed by a co-worker in 2005. His family claims the FBI agent who worked on the case assumed the shooting had been self-defense and didn't do a proper investigation. Now, the suit filed in federal court claims the FBI treated cases involving Native Americans differently. Bear Crane's mother says despite settling the suit, the family will continue to push for justice in his case. Now, the family also plans to start an organization providing help to other Native families with similar experiences. Well, some great financial news surrounding Yellowstone National Park. A new study by the National Park Service and the U.S. Geological Survey says Yellowstone pumps $642 million a year into local economies. The report, based on research in 2019, also says the park supported 7,000 local jobs in a wide range of industries. Most of those jobs were created in the hotel industry and other accommodations. Next was restaurants, followed by recreation industries, retail business, and transportation also accounted for sizable numbers of people employed because of park activity. Well, 3 months ago, a Billings school administrator won a prestigious statewide award, but due to COVID-19 restrictions, friends and staff weren't able to honor him properly until today.
Technology empowered superintendent here.
Elder Grove Superintendent Nathan Schmitz was named the Montana Education Technologists Association Superintendent of the Year for his consistent work to drive technology forward in his district. Family and staff gathered for the first time since the school went to distance learning in March, the ultimate test of a school's technological ability, which Schmitz says they passed with flying colors.
It was really smooth for us. We had an extensive amount of work that we had to do on the front side to overcome that. But once we got up and operational, it went very well. It's been a focal point of mine since I came to Elder Grove 8 years ago, whether it be on the safety and security standpoint or the technology for students and staff. It's our reality. It's our students' native language. It's where we're moving in the future.
Now, speaking of the future, the ceremony was also held in Elder Grove's new middle school. That staff toured today. The building came to fruition after voters passed a December 2017 bond. It is nearly complete in plenty of time for its scheduled opening in the fall. Principal Mike Rice says it's a silver lining of the coronavirus shutdown.
We're ahead of schedule, we're under budget. It almost helped in a sense where, everything shut down out here for us on campus. So I think workers were able to get to work and do things even quicker than we expected.
Every single entity that I'm working with on this building has told us that they have never worked on a project that has as much value. And that's due to the fact that the team has worked fastidiously throughout the entire process to fixate on the academic spaces and make sure our students and staff get everything they can possibly have.
And in order to use the building at its maximum capacity, Elder Grove says it needs more help in the form of a $600,000 levy. Now, Schmitz will lead a community forum tomorrow in the new gym at 5:30 p.m. Ahead on tonight's 5:30 News, Garth Brooks fans, some good news out of Manhattan, Montana. Load up your family into the car for a fun night out. And in sports, Scott opens the first of the three-part series on your Billings Mustangs, who would have reported to town this week.
You're watching MTN News with Jeanelle Slade and Russ Riesinger. Storm Tracker weather with Bob McGuire. And sports with Scott Green. This is the 5:30 News on Q2, Montana's news leader.